Don't you think this ended on a high note? Hi, I'm Bill Fitzpatrick. This is the Way of the Action Principles. Okay, I was at the school. I had traveled whatever, the 9,000 miles to St. Petersburg to teach martial arts, and they called it hooliganism and they threw my ass out. So here I am. I got 3 weeks. What am I going to do? So I went to the person who organized this educational exchange. I said, they threw me out of there, called me a hooligan and everything. Person's like going, what? Well, I had this all arranged. So, so he calls up this Broomhilda, this principal, and she's arguing, and he's like, well, blah, 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 blah. So he gets off the phone and he goes, okay, well, I negotiated with her. You can teach something. You can go back to the school, but you can't teach martial arts. You can teach something else. So what do you want to teach? She says she wants you to teach American history. So he says to me, can you teach American history? I said, I don't know, the kids in Russia, I guess I can teach American history. They're not going to know that much about American history. So I go there, and I'm going to teach American history for the 3 weeks. Okay, so the first day I'm in there, there's a classroom full of kids, and I start talking about George Washington, and they're like, these kids had zero interest in George Washington, Abraham Lincoln, anything I brought up about American history, 1770, the War of Independence. They did not care one thing about this. So after like a half hour, I can tell, everybody's, they're like talking to each other. No one's paying attention to me. A couple of them are asleep. I'm saying, oh my God, this is getting worse and worse. So I said, hey, everybody, come on, pay attention. I said, you kids obviously don't want to learn about American history. What do you want to learn about? So one kid says, we want to get rich like Americans. Teach us how to do that. I said, what? He goes, teach us how to get rich. And like 4 or 5 of them going, yes, we want to get rich. Tell us how to get rich. So in talking to them, I find out that all of these kids are very entrepreneurial, okay? And like they all had side hustles. There was one kid who somehow got a school bus and he went from one place to another delivering sugar, and there were people selling flowers. They all had these little businesses. So I started talking to them, about supply and demand and, 3 rules of business success. Offer a quality product or service that the market demands and charge a fair price. Appreciate your customer. Always say thank you. Ask for more business. Copy success. My rules of business. They were absorbing all of this. They loved all of this every day. It was wonderful. I was in there with these wonderful young teenage Russian entrepreneurs. So something that looked like it was going to be a disaster, this educational exchange, actually turned out pretty well for them and for me. What do you think? Take what works for you, improve yourself, and help others.